You ever have one of those moments, you've got this huge, important task staring you in the face, and suddenly, organizing your spice rack seems like the most urgent thing in the world. Why do we do that? Why do we put things off, even when we know it's a terrible idea? Well, today we're going to dive deep inside the mind of a master procrastinator and see what's really going on.
All right, so to really get into this, let's start with a story. Picture this. You're in college. You've got a whole year, an entire year, to write a 90-page senior thesis. I mean, that sounds like a ton of time, right?
And somehow, a whole year of good intentions boils down to this: a completely frantic, caffeine-fueled, 72-hour sprint to the finish line. It's kind of wild, right? Now, this is an extreme case for sure, but that feeling, that last-minute panic, I bet that's pretty familiar to a lot of us. So, how on earth do we get here?
This timeline just lays out the disconnect so perfectly. You've got the plan, the rational idea that starts nice and easy in month one, but then you have the reality, which, it looks a lot more like a cliff, doesn't it? It's just nothing, 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 and then suddenly sheer panic.
So after all that heroic effort, right, this superhuman work ethic that just appears out of nowhere, was the result a masterpiece? An academic triumph? Nope, not even close. It was really, really bad. So it's pretty clear this system might have a few flaws. Okay, so to really understand why this happens, we have to go inside the procrastinator's brain. And it turns out it's a little different in there. There's basically a battle for control happening at all times.
So, in the procrastinator's brain, you've got two main characters who are pretty much always fighting. First, you've got the rational decision maker. This is the part of you that makes sensible, long-term plans, the adult in the room. But then there's the instant gratification monkey, and he has a very different agenda.
And when that monkey grabs the steering wheel, oh boy, your day starts to look a little different. The rational decision makers, they're saying, hey, we should probably get some work done. But the monkey is like, nope, you know what sounds better? Reading the entire Wikipedia page on the Nancy Kerrigan scandal. Because the monkey only cares about two things: easy and fun. That's it.
So what happens when the monkey's in charge all the time? Well, we end up in this place that sounds like it should be fun, but it feels absolutely awful. This place has a name. It's called the dark playground.
And this is such a key idea, the dark playground. That's where you go when you're doing fun, leisure activities at a time when you're supposed to be doing something else. And the critical part, the reason it feels so bad, is because that leisure is totally unearned. And because that fun is unearned, it isn't actually fun at all. Instead, the air in the dark playground is just thick with all this other stuff: guilt, dread, anxiety, even self-hatred. You're supposed to be having fun, but you just feel terrible. It's a truly miserable place to hang out.
Okay, so if we're just stuck in this miserable cycle of distraction, how does anything ever get finished? Well, it turns out the procrastinator system has a guardian angel. A very, very stressed out, last-minute guardian angel.
So picture it. The monkey is at the wheel, having his quote-unquote fun time in the dark playground. But then, the deadline stops being this vague future concept. It's not next month or next week, it's tomorrow. And suddenly, the danger of real consequences, like public embarrassment, gets very, very real.
And when that happens, when the stakes get high enough, guess who finally wakes up? This is the panic monster. It's been dormant, just sleeping this whole time, but it wakes up when a deadline is breathing down your neck or when there's a real risk of public humiliation. And here's the most important part. The panic monster is the only thing the instant gratification monkey is terrified of.
So, this whole chaotic system, it kind of works, doesn't it? I mean, in a weird way. The monkey messes around, then the panic monster shows up, scares him up a tree, and the rational decision maker can finally get to work. But, and this is a big but, there's a huge, sneaky danger in relying on this system. See, it turns out there are actually two kinds of procrastination. Everything we've been talking about up to this point, the school papers, the work projects, that's just the first kind. Let's break it down. On one hand, you have procrastination with a deadline. That's the stuff we know well, like work projects. The effects are sort of contained because eventually the panic monster will show up. But then there's the other kind, the non-deadline procrastination. And this is the really dangerous stuff. Things like starting a business, working on your health, or even just making time for family. And this is where the whole system falls apart. Because if there's no deadline, the panic monster never wakes up. There's nothing to trigger it. The monkey stays in charge, forever. His reign is never challenged.
And that right there is the real tragedy of procrastination. It's not about the all-nighters or the stress of a deadline. It's this quiet, long-term suffering. It's feeling like a spectator in your own life. The frustration comes from all the things you never even start because there's no panic monster to get you going.
So you see, this isn't just some quirky personality flaw. This is about our lives. It's about how we use our most precious, non-renewable resource, our time. And to really drive that home, let's look at it in a way that's, well, a little bit startling.
This is what's called a life calendar. It's a pretty simple grid. Each one of these little boxes represents 1 week of a 90-year life. It's designed to take this huge, abstract idea of your life and make it something you can actually see.
4,680. That's the number. That's how many weeks are in 90 years. And when you see it all laid out like that, it doesn't actually seem like that many boxes, does it? And the sobering part is, we've all already filled in quite a few of them.
The takeaway here is that we all have to be conscious of that instant gratification monkey, especially for the important stuff that doesn't have a deadline to wake up the panic monster. Because when you see your life laid out in a grid of finite boxes, it really forces you to ask yourself a very important question. What are you really procrastinating on?